Commissioners. And let's see,
Thanks, Stephen.
before we get going, I'm going to read the opening statement for land use hearings. Okay. Good afternoon. My name is David Sykes, Chair of the Moore County Board of Commissioners. I will be presiding over the hearings today. Persons who wish to provide testimony may do so orally or in writing. Testimony and evidence must be directed toward the applicable criteria. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the decision maker and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes an appeal to the Board of Commissioners on that issue. Please sign the sheet in the back of the room and make a note in chat if you are participating via Zoom. If you would like to present testimony, please speak only when identified to the chair and begin by giving your name, spelling your name and address. You have exhibits for our consideration. Please provide a copy to staff. If you would like to request the commission open the record or continue the hearing, you must make that request before the public portion of the hearing is closed. This concludes the introduction. I will begin with the first item on today's agenda and call this meeting to order. So the first item is on ACM-149-24, AZM-150-24, comprehensive plan map and zoning map amendment. Rowan Birchon, LLC applicant. So with that, I will turn it over to Tamara for our staff report.
Thank you, Chair Sykes. For the record, my name is Tamara Mabott, Planning Director. I was hoping we would have a map, but everybody got broke for lunch really late, as you know. So we might wing this without showing a map, but I can say that on page 11 of your packet, we have several maps. And I could try to draw them up here based on your packet as well. So this application is to rezone approximately 318 acres of land that's zoned space age industrial and to rezone it to exclusive farm use. The property owner is 3 Mile Canyon Farms, and the property is located approximately 9 miles south of Interstate 84, south and west of the city of Boardman. The landowner question is primarily center pivot irrigation. I'll just summarize briefly the findings. As you may know, and we've only very subtly addressed that in the staff report, this was part of the larger picture that the applicant and the State Department of Land Conservation and Development looked at to, in order for the state to withdraw their appeal of the Perch Run Row and Green Data rezone last summer that you approved. So it's similar amounts of acreage. And that was the previous Perch Run decision was to rezone 274 acres of low quality soil land zoned exclusive farm use for purposes of a large data center. The findings for this are very short. You'll see that the quality of the soils, decent quality of soil, you'll see on the map, particularly the map, the zone change map on page 11. It's under center pivot irrigation. Let's see. Staff didn't request a traffic study because the use of the land will not change. And if it were to change, it would be in another farm use. So it wouldn't meet the 400 trip per day threshold. The access to the property is a road off of Tower Road. And on pages 6 and 7, we address statewide planning goals and our comprehensive plan. We notified lots of different state and other local federal agencies listed on page 9. And we don't have any recommended conditions of approval. Thank you, Landon. Planner Lyndon Jones just brought in a sign-in sheet if somebody wants to provide testimony. You could sign into the sheet. I think that's all I really need to cover on this one.
Before we move on, I didn't, I forgot to call for abstentions or conflict of interest.
Or if you want to receive notice.
If any commissioners have a conflict of interest, discuss this topic, I'm kind of winging it here because I don't know.
Oh, it's not on the checklist? Well.
It's
not
on the
for this-
checklist, it just doesn't, there's usually a little script on the,
Oh.
conflict of interest part.
Okay,
So-
my packet.
So Dave, I won't have a conflict of interest because it's not in your UC service.
Okay.
territory. Thank you for checking.
Yeah.
You should try to rope me in to.
Yeah. So, okay, so that's it. Okay, then we have the staff report. Okay.
So now the app,
Normally we ask staff questions. Oh, yeah, we had any questions of staff and then I'll ask for the public testimony. So,
or the applicant. Mhm.
yeah, from the applicant or, yeah, anyway, go ahead. You got any questions, Tamara?
So. I'm not even sure I understand it, but just to make sure I understand it, so if you hold up your logo now
Yeah.
on page 11.
Could you admit Stephen to that, this one here?
So we're talking about the
That-
crosshatch here.
Yes.
We're gonna take out a space age industrial or make it EFU. And take this EFU, put it up here.
No. So, close. The first half was correct. So the hatched mark area will be rezoned from space age to EFU.
Okay,
This property down here is not a subject to this application because you already decided that last fall.
okay. So the state will be appeased by making this EFU then. That we've kind of done a zone swap, but we haven't officially done a zone swap. Is
Yeah, I
is
think
that a
that's-
fair way to say that?
That's excellent. That's
Mitigation.
Exactly.
Is it
Mitigation, that's probably a
Or
good
is it-
term.
They're not calling it mitigation, but that's,
kind of what it is?
Okay.
so it's like wetlands, it's not really different.
And again, this is, the dark purple there is what we had approved before to put
Yes,
the limited overlay on.
that with the limited use overlay. Yep, and Stephen now has that map on the screen.
Okay.
Yes,
Just wanted
exactly.
to make sure I was clear on what.
You're clear.
I was a
And-
little bit off. to start
And
with.
no, yeah, for sure, it's really, sorry if I wasn't clear. This one seems really simple, so I'm a little more casual about presenting it. Staff was concerned about the gap between the area that was in that you previously approved, the funny shaped piece, and the area to rezone. But only reason is that there's a gap there and really doesn't really matter to us. So part of that SAI zone will be EFU and that's okay.
You. Questions from here? Yeah, well, that didn't make any sense what you just said because
Oh.
we're taking it from space as industrial and moving it to EFU, so this will all be EFU.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
Yeah, so it's not gonna be a gap, it's gonna actually be.
It'll all be EFU. That's right. An earlier version, Stephen, you can help me out. An earlier version, I think of the drawing showed a little skinny sliver of space age industrial, but we have the correct map version here.
Okay, so there
It
won't
was
be
a skinny strip, but there was a gap of SAI between the
between the two
EFU.
EFUs.
But that we have clarified since that the intent is to have so those two things abut, so we don't have that skinny gap of SAI.
That's correct.
Thanks.
Sorry.
Then I'll open public testimony portion. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor of this application? First in the room. Anybody on Zoom? Just many people on Zoom. Is there anyone on Zoom? that
Somebody-
wants to-
The applicant is on.
Just raise your hand.
yes.
if you want to.
She's going to admit them.
I'll roll you.
Good afternoon, Elaine Albridge on behalf of the applicant in this proceeding. With me today is David Shiflett as well as Joe Sapin from Rowan. Thanks to staff for putting together a good comprehensive staff report. This is a pretty simple application before you. We're simply seeking to downzone 318 acres nearby the proposed Rowan Percheron data center project. Happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, we support staff's recommendation. We appeared before Planning Commission last month and did not need to address any of their issues or questions. They recommended approval to the board. So just seeking your approval here as proposed by staff in their staff report and the proposed ordinance before you. With that, I'll hand it over to David unless there's any specific questions for me.
Any questions?
No questions.
Okay, no, we don't have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. Thank you, commissioners, for the consideration this afternoon. We appreciate all the work that Morrow County and the Planning Department have done on this project, and finally come to a resolution and an equitable exchange of zone land. So we fully support the downzoning of the 3 Mile Canyon land as part of the relationship with DLCD, and look forward to moving the Rowan Digital Infrastructure Project, Rowan Percheron project forward here in the future. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Any questions? Nope. Okay. Anyone else want to speak in favor? Okay. Anyone here want to speak in opposition to this here, this proposal of this public hearing? Nope. Okay. With that, we'll close the public testimony portion and the commission will deliberate. Okay. It's the pleasure of the board.
Chair, if I might, on page 10 of the findings, there are 2 draft motions. One is to accept the findings and recommendation and approve the application. The other one is to not accept the findings and approve the application. I'd like to, I'm not sure if you want to handle them separately, but also would look for board acceptance of the adopting ordinance and that. I don't know if I have an ordinance number.
No, we don't, but if you,
But this is the first hearing. The second hearing would be in 2 weeks. So I think we're fine. So I should have pinged you on that because it was sorry, I should have reminded you.
Does this take two from the commission? 2 hearings?
It
Or do we?
It is-
This one out or?
You close this hearing, and you take action on the findings and make a decision. And then you also, take action on the ordinance, and then we'll schedule it for 2 weeks from now for the second reading of the ordinance. It's a pretty antiquated way of doing business, but I think under the structure of government and what has been done in the past, that's how we handle them.
Okay, so we need to change that suggested motion then. Oh,
That's-
you wanted one of each. that's
This is-
One of each, yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So we actually approve it even though we're going to have another hearing, or not necessarily hearing, but another reading?
And I know it's, that's the way council is advised to continue to do that.
That's my understanding, yeah.
Okay, not this council. So it does feel clunky. I'm not sure
Yes.
what to do because we're general rural county, right? So we have to have a second reading of ordinances.
Sure.
A person cannot appeal the ordinance, they would appeal the land use decision.
So the ordinance is why we have 2 hearings or 2 meetings. on it.
2 meetings, just second reading of the ordinance, yeah.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to accept the findings and recommendation of the planning commission and approve the application.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, been moved and second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Okay,
And then also, if you wouldn't mind, approving the ordinance.
Yeah.
Implementing this,
I don't
okay.
have a number on that or anything.
I know, it's just that it's on page 17 of your packet.
17.
So I'm not sure what number we're on right now.
I think it would be 1.
I think
Did we do one in January?
So how about if I just read it by title?
For sure, that works, yeah.
Make a motion to approve or adopt. What word am I looking for, Greg? Adopt ordinance, an ordinance amending the Morrow County Comprehensive Plan map and zoning map from space age industrial to exclusive farm use on a 318-acre parcel.
I'll second that.
They moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion, all opposed, motion carried. Okay. So
Thank you.
I will be back next time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, David.
We'll see you later. Okay, the next one up is the AC 151 24 AZM 152 people comprehensive plan and zoning map amendment for Andrade applicant. Wait, and so there again, we'll start with the, should I read the, I don't know, read the opening statement again.
We usually don't,
No.
but I think you're fine.
Okay, then we'll just ask for staff report.
Great, thank you, Chair. Again, for the record, Tamara Mabott. I also have Daisy Goebel with me. When this application was presented to the Planning Commission, they took action on two matters. One was the rezone that's in front of you today. So it's a comprehensive plan map and a zoning map rezone to rezone 1.5 acres from suburban residential 2A to general commercial. The Planning Commission, just following that recommendation, took action on a conditional use permit. Daisy helped with the conditional use permit and can answer questions if that comes up today. So just for context, in case anyone else listening in or interested in this, I want to just draw to attention, there are two different decisions and just the rezone pieces in front of you today. So Stephen is showing the map online up on the screen. It's a just over 1.5 acre parcel that abuts Highway 730 and West 4th. Sorry, it's West 2nd. Thank you. Didn't need my glasses. There we go. West 2nd. To the right or to the east is the city of Irrigan that shows in gray. That's right. And those parcels that abut this are a commercial zone right there, those two right there. So, oh, perfect. That's super helpful, Stephen. So the orange properties are commercial in the city, and then the Andrade parcel is down on the left over there on the screen. So if someone was to drive by, it would just continue a row of commercial zoning. And the Andrades have been working with us for over a year. They're one of those properties in a residential zone where they've been operating a commercial trucking business. The Planning Commission issued a permit for a conditional use permit or for a home occupation, and their business has grown. Good news is their business has grown. The other news is the business grew in a residential zone, so it was time for them to move, and they agreed to that. So it was not at all easy to find another location. And so they found this piece of property that is currently zoned suburban residential. It's not in the city limits and it's not even in the urban growth area. Commissioner Winholtz will know that this was previously in the urban growth area and sometime in the 80s, the late 80s, early 90s, those landowners removed themselves. It's very unusual, but it does happen occasionally. So it's Pearly County piece of property. And it currently has a mobile home on it, and their plan is if the board approves the rezone, the plan and the zone amendment, they will develop this piece of property. They'll put a newer mobile home on the piece of property, build a shop, and they will work on their own trucks and have some of their trucks also stored there. There are conditions that we put on the conditional use permit that you don't actually see. Daisy probably remembers them. if you have questions about that, but again, the purview of your decision is the rezone piece. We did provide notice to state and local agencies. We received comment from ODOT, Oregon Department of Transportation. They were concerned about a piece of property abutting the state highway that could be a large traffic generator. So they recommended a trip cap of 30 trips per day. That's a new thing for us to impose. I have very limited experience with that. It's difficult to monitor, but I think we can do that. We also discussed that with the Andrades at the Planning Commission meeting, and they're amenable to that as well. So one of the conditions, condition number 1 on page 9 of your packet, is that the landowner will submit a report annually. I wouldn't expect that to be much of anything, just a statement that says they comply with the trip cap. And that was also in lieu of providing a full traffic study, which is really expensive. And it was nice that ODOT said, you know, if you put a trip cap, we're not gonna ask them to put together a $6,000 to $10,000 traffic study. This would allow them to continue to use the site for 1 home, not 2, and that was clarified also in the conditional use permit application. They may or may not need to obtain a new drain field and septic approval. Typically, if you're increasing the number of bedrooms, environmental health will require some sort of updated permit. So that's condition number 2. Condition number 3 is to comply with access and driveway spacing and improvement requirements recommended by Public Works. This may require a new access permit depending on the location of the proposed access and use of the site. And Eric is here. I'm our Public Works Director. He took a look at this and also participated at the Planning Commission level, which is very helpful. Before I mention anything more about access, we also made it a condition of both this and the CUP to conduct a boundary survey to verify the accurate locations of the northern and the eastern property boundaries. So there is on this subject piece of property an easement that runs east to west that the current occupants of that dwelling use for access. And the property survey will show whether or not that easement is on this property or the neighboring property. If it's on the neighboring property and it's not a public easement, they would have to get permission to use that or have another access permit. And that means they'd have to get an access permit. So rather than requiring them to survey and then move forward with approval, because again, surveys are very expensive, even for a couple of property lines, we made it a condition of approval. And the surveyor will actually, you know, flag the property out there so they'll know whether or not where those property boundaries are. Another point I wanted to raise is we provided notice to the city of Oregon, and in your packet, you see a letter from the city of Oregon. They're suggesting that we should meet with them before we process the application. It's sure not a bad idea. We were short at least 2 people in the office at that time.
Is that letter? Oh, there it is, here it is.
Did you find it? Okay, good, yeah. And actually, they sort of recommend that we not approve it. I feel really comfortable with the planning commission decision that includes some conditions of approval. And I don't think it's, particularly with the conditions for fencing and landscaping, I don't think it's gonna take away or be a negative entryway, if you will, into Oregon. And I think those were the city's main concerns.
And then when he says the city of Oregon, and then he signed it, do you know if it went before for the council?
I'm assuming it did not, but I have not
I'm
confirmed
just
that.
curious what the city of Oregon means, him or the city council. Yeah.
He co-authored that with their planning consultant.
Okay.
And we don't have regular meetings with the city. Our interlocal agreement, what we call our joint management agreement, requires that we meet with them in advance if it's in their urban growth area. Again, no harm, no foul. We would have been happy to discuss with them. It just didn't really even occur to us because it's not even in the urban growth area. And we've been having a lot of legislative actions in the past few months, so we didn't sit down and meet with them. I don't know that I have anything else to share. One point, the site plan, which would be on page 14 of your packet, shows a driveway on a new access onto Highway 730 as part of their conditional use permit. If ODOT approves that, that would work. I don't think ODOT will. They want that traffic to come on us on a local road. Because of the size of the parcel, the county will have to issue a access permit, but it probably won't meet our spacing standards because the size of that parcel is pretty small. And that's just the parcel itself is not a matter before you, so that is grandfathered in. And anything else? Okay. I think that's all from me.
When you said the existing house will be removed before the other house is put on?
They'll be permitted to replace it. Sometimes they'll say, can we live in that one while we're
Right.
setting it up?
But I mean,
But yes.
there won't be two houses there.
Correct. That's exactly right. That start with one and end with one and maybe a little bit of overlap. And they're relocating, the whole family and the whole business, and we really appreciate they were so accommodating at the planning commission level and with code compliance. So they've been really nice to work with. I'm really confident they'll comply with that. It'll be pretty obvious if they try to keep two homes there, right on the highway. So that, I think, is it.
You know what the vote was on the planning commission?
Unanimous. Mhm.
Good. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah,
We included the draft minutes and we're trying
I
to
didn't
make
get a
them.
chance to read them.
Yeah, no.
I apologize.
No, that's just fine. We're shortening the length of some of the minutes and maybe that got left out of here. And again, those are draft minutes. We don't usually share draft minutes, but we thought you would want the background.
Yeah, sometimes, and I wouldn't call this contentious, it did have people talking both ways. And I like the way you put the packet together for the Tower Road property, where you put everything in there.
Okay,
That was really, because you guys did a lot of due diligence on that one.
on the original, the Percheron, that was a big
So we got
application.
to, we got to really get a feel for what the planning
Okay.
commission did, so.
Good,
And I felt a lot better with that one when we got to see all the raw material and stuff, so,
good.
yeah. So I appreciate that, but anyway, that doesn't have to do with this, but just
Okay.
the way you set this, set it up, just a comment on.
Well, Michaela
What
gets
I-
all credit for numbering the pages, which is, I remember back in the day handwriting these things, so she makes it look really easy.
Yeah,
So,
then you can lead us through it,
that's right, yeah.
okay. If there's no more questions from staff, then we'll open up the public hearing portion of this. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor of this application in the room?
Sure, you guys are just listening. You're just listening today.
Mhm.
Okay, you're welcome. Yeah.
And, okay, is there anyone who on Zoom that wants to speak in favor? Okay, is there anyone in the room that wants to speak against or just has a question? We used to do that on county planning. I don't know if you still do it or not. Where people wanted to.
So neutral or?
Neutral, yeah, or
neutral.
just
You didn't
questions.
necessarily were,
Yeah.
I guess they just.
Is that not on your list?
That probably is.
You have some latitude there. Okay. It might
So-
not be.
I'll ask the same thing here.
Oh, thanks.
If you wanna talk about this, you don't have to be for or against, you can be neutral, you just want some information, want to talk to staff or us or anything, so. Anyway. Okay. Hearing none, then we'll close the public hearing, public testimony part of the hearing,
Mhm.
and the commission will deliberate. Make a decision.
So I'll just make comments, I think that personally, I like the fact that, I think off of a highway, I think a commercial zoning is a great thing right off of a highway, especially coming into a community. I think that that's really good. And, I know that when I was reading through the draft minutes, there were concerns possibly about a trucking company being there, but literally across the street at where Bulldog Towing is now was originally developed, and Don Jorgensen ran his trucking business out there when he had to move out of a residential area.
Mhm.
I don't know if that was pre-zoned commercial or if you got it in zone commercial, but there was already a trucking company that
Mhm.
ran out of it literally across the street, so. you know,
Yeah, that is in a commercial zone now, but whether it
It was
back
when
then,
he developed it, I
Yeah.
don't know, I wasn't involved, it was a long time ago.
was.
But, so, and then also the aspect that the trucking is gonna be right off the highway, so they aren't driving through a neighborhood to get to a commercial piece of property, so you don't have those impacts. And the additional noise of pulling off of Second Street and probably going less than 100 feet, Eric,
240, yeah.
to
200,
to make a right turn isn't any different than
Well-
when they hit the Jake brakes at West Fourth and coming into town. So
Right,
there
yeah.
isn't gonna be like increased noise in the neighborhood because we're citing this there, so
Mhm.
those are just comments I have. And if nobody else has comments, I.
Yeah, just I don't think that, I hope ODOT doesn't give the access from 7:30. I can see that being.
Yeah.
Problematic. Mhm.
Any other questions?
I think I did, it's clearly in your packet, but I didn't go into much detail about a letter from Mr. DePape and his wife, Mr. and Mrs. DePape, and West Extension. But those are in your packet. We can talk about them further if you like. West Extension really just wants to make sure nobody builds on irrigation lines and where we're requiring the survey. That's Bev from West Extension was content with that part.
Yeah, and I feel that the planning commission did a really effective job of addressing the neighboring property owners' concerns and finding solutions that directly address each point.
As part of the use permit, yep.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Any other questions of staff? I'm gonna entertain a motion to approve.
So I'd move for approval of AC 151 24 and AZN 152 24. And it's subject to the conditions of approval as laid out in the staff report.
Second.
Been moved in second, and further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Okay, thank you, Tamara.
And then also the ordinance, do you want
Yeah,
to
the
adopt the ordinance, please? Yes. And we'll get you numbers for 2 weeks from now.
Sort of an ordinance.
I know.
So I'd move for the adoption of an ordinance amending the Morrow County comprehensive plan map from residential to commercial and amending the zoning map from suburban residential to SR2 to general commercial.
I'll second that.
Been moved in second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. A quick question, is that new, the way we're doing this, or is this? Yeah, I mean, you said it was kind of funky and cumbersome, but
The double readings.
yeah, to do the ordinance,
So,
I don't seem to remember. Maybe we did it before, but I don't know. I just think
yeah, I think this group's only done it once before this.
with the, having the ordinance along with it, it's.
Yeah, I think since you've been this group in office, I think we've only done one
we
legislative
haven't done a
change.
lot of them.
Yeah, that's right. It's a little bit different than planning commission, right? Because
Yeah,
the
it
planning
is.
commission
Yeah.
doesn't look at the ordinance, just the findings. So your experience there it was just missing that one little step, but good questions.
Flashbacks is all. Okay. I guess that's it. That's all our business. With that, I'll call this public hearing,
Adjourn.
I'll adjourn the public hearing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Maybe we should do it.